And I guess we're live. These live streams are always a little bit funky because you never know exactly when the sucker is going to click in and start streaming live. So there's always a little delay in the beginning. Apologize for that, guys. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Super Rolling channel. It's another Friday live stream. I'm trying to kind of do my Friday live stream, give you guys a little update on what I've been working on, what kind of video I have hopefully coming out tomorrow, which I do. I have a new video coming out tomorrow that I've been working my ass off on all week, basically filming it, editing it, and doing a bunch of different segments that I kind of worked into the video. And that's what I have right here. The video this week is actually part one of a two-part series for the installation of this new MatterX prototype shifter. If you guys saw one of my earlier videos on this, I did an unboxing video. And this MatterX shifter is really interesting because it's a different design than the Subaru OEM shifters. It's a completely different design in that this shifter doesn't bolt to the transmission itself in any way. This shifter is completely isolated or insulated from the transmission, and it's bolted to the chassis and the body. But it also, of course, it has a rod going to the input shaft of the transmission, but the body of the shifter and basically the whole shifter unit is insulated from the transmission. It also has this like dual axis kind of bearing design that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the video that I'm releasing tomorrow morning, guys. And it also can be used for multiple different models across the model line of Subarus, and it can be adjusted. Another thing I'll talk about tomorrow, but basically this little knob right here on the top of the shifter allows you to rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise, and that will either raise up or lower this main shift rod. And when you raise or lower the shift rod, that actually changes the shifting geometry, which basically means you'll make it a shorter throw or a longer throw. And shorter throws are faster, but they require a little bit more input force. So basically more force from your arm and your own muscles. And a longer throw will require less force from your arm because more force is actually generated from the fulcrum force and the geometry associated with having a longer shifter. So that takes away the force necessary from your arm input. And that's why longer shifters have less force required by your arm, but they take longer to travel because they have to go a longer distance to shift the gear, and they take longer. So for high performance motorsports, or especially for drag racing, if you have a manual transmission, you want to have those transmission shifts as quickly as possible because that's where you lose a lot of the time when you're drag racing and doing other motorsport activities. So that is basically the DM1 prototype shifter from MatterX. And if you guys didn't catch it in an earlier video, these shifters actually aren't available to the public yet. This is a prototype, and I'm going to be installing this on my 98 RS, and that's what the part one of the video is tomorrow, is the first video series in that two-part series. And I'm going to be giving feedback to the guys at MatterX, basically Eric. Shout out to Eric at MatterX. What's up, brother? And then one of the social media coordinators, Leah. So shout out to Leah as well. Thanks, guys, for everything you've been helping me with and all the communication. So that's a shifter. I get into it in a little more detail, basically the way it bolts into the chassis. And I also am including in the video tomorrow, basically this little whiteboard kind of breakdown I did. Basically, before I dive into that, the video format for tomorrow is diving into this short shifter, or diving into this MatterX shifter, and all kind of the functionality of it and the design of it. And then I'm going to dive into this whiteboard drawing right here and kind of walk you guys through how the stock OEM shifters work. And that's what I basically have here. I'm not going to get into it in any detail today. Check out the video tomorrow to see how I basically break it down, but I'll give you a little overview, I guess, a little preview. Basically, shifters are pretty simple, the stock OEM shifters. And once you understand how the stock OEM shifter is designed, you have a better understanding of what the differences are with the DM1 or the MatterX shifter. Because knowing how the stock one is designed and how it functions is important to understand what the difference is and how the MatterX shifter is going to perform differently. So when I said about the stock shifter being mounted to the transmission, that's what I'm showing right here on this lower rod. Basically, the lower rod is a fixed rod for these stock shifters. And I actually have, might as well just kind of grab it for you two here. I'm just juggling a bunch of balls here on the live stream, guys. Stock shifter. This is a stock OEM shifter assembly from Subarus, and they're actually remarkably similar for a lot of the different years for Subaru. They've changed slightly. The STIs are a little bit different design, certainly, especially with the reverse lockout cable that the STI 6-speed has. But the overall design and the way the shifters engage the gears in the transmission are all really, really similar across all the model years and makes for Subarus. So this is that lower rod right here on the bottom that is bolted to the transmission with this little bushing right here. And incidentally, you can actually buy upgraded bushings for your stock shifter. It's a real common upgrade, and you'll be replacing this soft rubber right here, and actually at the back right here, which is right here, I can't really see it, there's a rubber bushing in that piece as well. You can replace both those rubber bushings with polygraphite bushings, and that will actually give your shifter a more, stiffer, sharper feel for engaging those gears, and a little bit more feedback into the shifter as well. Okay, so this is that lower rod. Lower rod has a little pivot point down here at the bottom, and the way this is oriented in the car, I guess I'll give you that, that's what I kind of forgot to mention, is that this is the front of the shifter and this is the rear. So this bolts up to the transmission, but this is facing front of the car, that's facing the back of the car. This obviously pokes through into the cabin, and all this stuff is bolted on the underside of the car, which you can probably tell just from the rust and corrosion that's on this piece. And right here on this lower rod, it's like a fixed rod. It's got insulating like rubber bushings, but there's a pivot point right here, and that's where your shifter actually drops into. There's actually a little ball pivot at the bottom of your shifter that you can pop in